Hey there, America! Remember those tariffs Trump slapped on China? Well, California's had enough and is taking him to court. They're saying, hold up, these tariffs are hurting us bad. Think of it like a playground fight, but instead of spitballs, it's lawsuits. Now, California isn't just some whiny kid on the playground. It's the biggest state economy in the U.S., a global powerhouse. They're leading the charge against Trump's trade war, and things are about to get messy. So, what are tariffs anyway? You might have heard the word tossed around on the news, especially when politicians start talking about trade wars or protecting American jobs. But for most of us, tariffs are a bit of a mystery, something that happens far away in government buildings with lots of paperwork and official-sounding language. But the truth is, tariffs have a direct impact on our everyday lives, even if we don't always notice it right away. To really understand tariffs, let's break it down with a simple example. Imagine you're at a neighborhood bake sale. You've got your eye on a delicious cookie, but there's a twist. The baker at your table, let's call him Tariff Trump, decides that if you want to buy a cookie from another table, you have to pay an extra fee, just because it's not from his own table. Suddenly that cookie from across the room costs more than the ones right in front of you. It doesn't matter if it's tastier or cheaper to make. The extra charge is there simply because it's from somewhere else. That's basically what a tariff is, a tax or fee placed on goods that are brought in from other countries. When a product crosses the border, the government can decide to slap on an extra charge, making it more expensive for businesses to import and for shoppers to buy. These taxes can be a flat fee or a percentage of the item's value, and they're collected at the border by customs officials. It's like a toll booth for products, and the money goes straight to the government. Governments use tariffs for a few reasons. Sometimes it's to raise money, just like any other tax. But more often tariffs are used as a tool to influence trade. By making foreign goods more expensive, the idea is to encourage people to buy products made at home instead. It's a way to give local businesses a leg up, at least in theory. In 2018, President Trump made headlines by imposing a series of tariffs, mostly targeting goods coming in from China. The move was part of a larger strategy to shake up the global trading system and put pressure on China to change some of its business practices. It was a bold move, and it set off a chain reaction around the world. The official reason? To protect American jobs and businesses. The idea was that if imported goods became more expensive, people would be more likely to buy things made in the USA. That would mean more demand for American factories, more work for American employees, and a boost for small businesses trying to compete with cheaper products from overseas. On paper, it sounds like a win-win. More jobs, stronger businesses, and a chance to rebuild American manufacturing. The hope was that tariffs would make American-made products more attractive, helping to revive industries that had been struggling for years. But here's where things get complicated. When tariffs are added to imported goods, the extra cost doesn't just disappear. Most of the time, it gets passed along to the people buying those products. Regular shoppers like you and me. Suddenly, cars, clothes, electronics, and even groceries can cost more than they used to. Businesses have to pay more for the parts and materials they need, and those costs often show up in the final price tag. For families on a budget, these price hikes can really add up. It's not just luxury items. Everyday essentials can get more expensive, making it harder for people to make ends meet. And while some industries might benefit, others can get squeezed by higher costs and less demand. And guess who's feeling the pinch the most? Ordinary Americans, especially in states like California, where the cost of living is already high and many businesses rely on imported goods. From farmers to factory workers to families shopping for school supplies, the impact of tariffs is being felt in wallets and workplaces all across the state. So, while tariffs might sound like a distant policy debate, they're actually shaping the prices we pay and the choices we make every single day. California's economy is massive, like Hollywood blockbuster massive. We're talking about a state that, if it were its own country, would have one of the largest economies in the entire world. From the glitzy lights of Los Angeles to the innovation hubs of Silicon Valley, California is a powerhouse of creativity, technology, and agriculture. Its influence stretches far beyond its borders, shaping trends, technology, and even what we eat for breakfast. It's home to tech giants like Apple and Google, the world-famous Hollywood film industry, and let's not forget those delicious avocados that end up on toast everywhere. California's fields and orchards feed the nation, and its tech companies connect the globe. Every day, millions of people rely on what California produces, whether it's the latest smartphone, a blockbuster movie, or fresh produce at the grocery store. But all this is under threat from Trump's tariffs. These tariffs, which are essentially taxes on goods imported from China, have sent shockwaves through California's economy. Suddenly, the cost of doing business is rising, and uncertainty is in the air. Companies that rely on parts or products from China are scrambling to adjust, and the ripple effects are being felt everywhere, from the boardrooms of tech companies to the fields of family farms. See, California trades a lot with China, more than any other state in the U.S. The ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach are some of the busiest in the world, acting as gateways for goods flowing in and out of the country. Every day, ships loaded with electronics, clothing, machinery, and food arrive and depart, fueling California's economy and supporting hundreds of thousands of jobs. When tariffs hit, it's not just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's real people, real businesses, and real communities that feel the impact. Those tariffs on Chinese goods, they're like a punch in the gut to California's farmers and businesses. Farmers who once exported tons of produce to China are now struggling to find buyers. Small business owners are watching their costs rise and their profits shrink. Some are even being forced to lay off workers or close their doors for good. The pain is spreading from rural farms to urban centers, touching every corner of the state. Prices are going up and people aren't buying as much. Everyday Californians are feeling the squeeze at the checkout line as the cost of everything from electronics to groceries climbs higher. Families are forced to make tough choices, cutting back on spending or skipping out on treats they used to enjoy. The economic stress is real, and it's changing the way people live and shop. And those avocados, let's just say they're not looking so green anymore. With fewer buyers and higher costs, some farmers are watching their crops go to waste. The story of California's avocados is just one example of how tariffs can turn opportunity into hardship, and how the effects ripple through families, businesses, and entire communities. California isn't taking this lying down. When the federal government announced these new tariffs, it sent shockwaves through the state. California, known for its independent streak and progressive values, immediately sprang into action. Leaders, activists, and everyday citizens alike felt blindsided by what they saw as an overreach of presidential power. The mood was one of defiance, determination, and a deep sense of injustice. For many, it wasn't just about economics, it was about standing up for the rule of law and the rights of states to have a say in decisions that affect their people. So what did California do? They took the fight to court. The state, led by its attorney general and a coalition of legal experts, filed a major lawsuit against the Trump administration. Their argument was clear. These tariffs are not just bad policy, they're illegal. The lawsuit claims that the president doesn't have the authority to unilaterally impose such sweeping economic measures without congressional approval. California's legal team is determined to prove that the administration's actions violate both the letter and the spirit of the law. At a packed news conference, California's Attorney General laid out the case for the public. He explained that the president had overstepped his constitutional powers, acting more like a king than an elected official. The legal complaint, thick with arguments and precedents, was presented as a defense of democracy itself. The message was simple: no one, not even the president, is above the law. To put it in everyday terms, imagine this. You let your friend borrow your car for the weekend, but instead of just using it, your friend decides to sell it without even asking you. That's how California sees what happened here. The state believes the president took something that wasn't his to give away, making a decision that should have involved others, especially Congress. California's lawmakers are fired up. In heated debates on the assembly floor, they've argued that these tariffs could devastate local industries, cost jobs, and hurt families across the state. Protesters have taken to the streets, waving signs and demanding that their voices be heard. For them, this isn't just a legal battle, it's a fight for their livelihoods and their future. At the heart of California's argument is the U.S. Constitution. The state's legal team points to a very specific section. The power to set tariffs and regulate commerce belongs to Congress, not the president. This isn't just a technicality. It's a fundamental principle of American democracy. By bypassing Congress, California argues, the administration has set a dangerous precedent that threatens the balance of power. To strengthen their case, California's lawyers have pointed to recent Supreme Court decisions. For example, when President Biden tried to forgive student loan debt by executive order, the court ruled that he didn't have the authority to do so without Congress. California argues that the same logic applies here. Presidents can't just make sweeping economic decisions on their own, no matter who they are or what party they belong to. In the end, California's message is loud and clear. Even the President of the United States has to play by the rules. This lawsuit isn't just about tariffs, it's about defending the Constitution, protecting the rights of states, and making sure that no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law. The outcome of this battle could shape the limits of presidential power for years to come. Unsurprisingly, the White House isn't too happy about being sued. They're calling California's lawsuit frivolous and politically motivated. They're basically saying, "You're just picking on us because you don't like Trump." They claim these tariffs are necessary to protect national security and fix unfair trade practices. They're sticking to their guns, even though economists are saying these tariffs are actually hurting the U.S. economy. Here's the thing. California might be leading the charge, but it's not alone. Small businesses across the country are feeling the heat from these tariffs. They're seeing their costs skyrocket and their profits dwindle. Even civil rights groups are joining the lawsuit party, arguing that these tariffs disproportionately hurt minority-owned businesses. It's a whole mess, and everyone's pointing fingers. Okay, enough with the legal mumbo-jumbo. Let's talk about what really matters, your wallet. Those tariffs, they mean everything's more expensive. Your clothes, your electronics, even your guacamole. And it's not just about the money. Remember those farmers in California, the ones growing your avocados and almonds? Their livelihoods are at stake. They rely on trade with China, and these tariffs are killing their businesses. So what happens next? Well, the courts will decide if Trump's tariffs were legal or if he went rogue. This could take months, even years. In the meantime, businesses and consumers are left in limbo, wondering what the future holds. One thing's for sure, this fight is far from over. The outcome of California's lawsuit could have huge implications for the balance of power between the president and Congress. It's a big deal, folks. Look, I know legal battles can be about as exciting as watching paint dry, but this one matters. It's about whether the president can just impose tariffs willy-nilly, even if it hurts the economy and costs people their jobs. It's about the avocados, people, and the clothes and the electronics and everything else that's about to get more expensive. So stay tuned, because this tariff showdown is just getting started.